right, welcome back to it here. You may have heard, and you should have, Bobby Kennedy, Secretary of Health and Human Services, has now removed the COVID vaccine from the schedule for healthy kids and for healthy pregnant women. I mean, it's a good start, but it's only that. It's just a start. Dr. Peter McCullough joining me now this morning to talk more about it. Doctor, nice to see you here again. Obviously, this is a step forward, but you and I were just talking. You certainly shouldn't give it to healthy kids. You certainly shouldn't give it to pregnant women. And the labeling for Pfizer and Moderna should be a lot more clear about the risks involved. They do it with all the other drugs. Why do they refuse to put the real risk of this jab, of this vaccine, on the labeling?
You know, the FDA has no compunction at all in terms of, listing death as a side effect with antibiotics and other medicines that we see advertised. But here with the vaccines, where the vaccines clearly cause fatal side effects, the word death does not appear on the package labeling. The recent change on myocarditis simply standardized Pfizer and Moderna to say it can occur ages 16 to 25. That's not true, because in the peer-reviewed literature, it happens in all age ranges. 90% are men, 10% are women. You know, a notable case is former Tampa Bay Bucks coach Bruce Arians. He got vaccine myocarditis, was hospitalized, and he was in his 70s. So the package label for both the vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, are woefully inadequate. The recent change is just window dressing.
Window dressing. All right, so let me ask you this. If you're an individual, you're concerned about long COVID, but you don't trust the vaccines, and at this point, why would you? What would you recommend?
The best thing for long COVID, and long COVID occurs after having the SARS-CoV-2 infection as well as taking COVID-19 vaccines. They both load the body with the spike protein. You need the ultimate spike detox, which is the McCullough protocol-based spike protein detoxification, the only peer-reviewed, scientific supported approach, and that combines the use of nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin, medicinal grade high dose. My experience is, this takes about a year to get this stuff out of the body.
A year? So this is no small measure. So let me ask you this. We've talked about this before, but I want people to be crystal clear on this. Would you recommend the COVID vaccine, and I use that term lightly, vaccine, would you use the COVID vaccine or recommend it to anyone at this point?
No, I wouldn't, Steve. And the recent FDA new recommendations indicate that 31% of adults in the United States should be taking vaccines. What's the problem? It's less than 15% are actually taking the vaccines. So our FDA and HHS, including Robert F. Kennedy, they're still out of touch with what's going on in America. People don't want these vaccines.
So the best approach really, and you and I have talked about this, is if you get sick with COVID or anything else for that matter, deal with the illness. Deal with getting healthy. Treat the illness. Don't wait till people are, what we did during COVID was criminal. We allowed people to get incredibly ill, send them home, then come back to the hospital when you're really sick, and then gave them ventilators, which was almost certainly a death sentence for more than 90% of the people that got them. Everything we did was wrong, wasn't it?
It's true. The pandemic response was just horrific. The suppression of early treatment was criminal. It resulted in hospitalization and death. Now, Steve, the death numbers were grossly inflated. Recently at a Senate hearing where I was the lead witness, Senator Blumenthal said 1.2 million Americans died of COVID-19. Now, the CDC does list on its website there are PCR positive people who died, 1.2 million. But if we look within the National Center for Health Statistics data, only half of them had pneumonia, only half. So I can tell you the number is roughly half of that. It's about 600,000 Americans died with COVID-19. If rigorously adjudicated, it's probably down to 10% of that total, 1.2 million. But the bottom line is there's been more deaths due to the vaccine than there has been due to COVID.
Absolutely true. Let me ask you this about Bobby Kennedy. His promise to America was to start focusing on making people healthy ahead of time. Making sure that the junk was out of the food, the additives were out of the food, the dyes that were potentially hazardous to your health were out of the food. Is he making the strides? Are you optimistic in the strides you've seen so far? Because, look, keeping people healthy is a lot easier than curing them when they're already sick, isn't it?
it is true that people, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Remember, what Kennedy can't do is he can't choose how people live their lives. People have to make healthy choices, have portion control in their diet, exercise, regularly see their doctor, intercept health problems early. But what he is doing is he's trying to create a mindset, and I think provide some safety guardrails, particularly with respect to food and water and drink. All that is laudable. There's no doubt about it. But Kennedy is going to have to address the elephant in the room, and that is the continued mass vaccination with COVID-19 vaccines. Fortunately, few people are taking them, but there still are deaths occurring after vaccination.
Yeah. It is time to make America healthy. And look, it's remarkable after all these years of initiatives and government programs and money spent, we're sicker than we've ever been, Doctor. It's pretty shameful. I'll give you the last word.
What we need, Steve, is we need a total mindset. Every person listening should re-examine their priorities in life. If they prioritize their health above other pressing issues like money and all the other pressures that people have, it will pay off in the end. But it's a personal choice, and RFK and everyone knows it. But he is changing the conversation, and I think that's good for America.
That's a good start. It's a good start. Dr. Peter McCullough, always appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you very much.